but we designed it. This is a liner building in Winter Park, and not in an expensive area, because Winter Park can be expensive. This is not an expensive area. This was a corner parking lot, right? And here you see how the building is built on the second floor. That's what it looks like from the air. This is from the ground. Could you tell that's an open parking lot? Beautiful. And then here's how it is from the back. Okay? I don't think you have real estate value high enough to ever fully redevelop your lots. In fact, not even nearly. It's arguable that a high percentage of surface parking is the highest and best use for practically forever. You know, not just in our lifetime, but practically forever. But it is not tolerable to do nothing with the edges. And you can put some very nice, inexpensive apartments on top, keep the parking, and keep going. So what we're doing in some way by proposing this is forget this, you know, infinite height zoning. You know, it's buildings on the edge doing this. This is a beautiful place. I wish this were a bigger slide. And this is what it looks like. On the first floor, here's the parking lot. These are the cars pulling in, like that. At the corner, because cars can't use the corner, at the corner you have a shop or an apartment that goes all the way down. And then on the second floor, you have 2-bedroom walk-up units, you know, which you need a lot of. And very inexpensive to build, 20-foot, you know, it's 20-foot span. It's like a motel, but with a better facade. Short of that, you can do what Portland has a lot of, which is food trucks. They actually have recruited food trucks, actually on a permanent basis. And they back them up to sidewalks, and they provide a huge amount of really good food and attract more people to then do the other venues and so forth. And this costs virtually nothing. This is just management. Recruit food trucks. There's a place in Miami called Wynwood that is recruiting food trucks. Not any food truck. You know, you come here to Mobile. You know, it'll work. Lots of people in the courthouse, lots of people in the office buildings. The zoning, this is the zoning plan. Again, another lecture all onto itself. It is context-based, it's not use-based. It's not about what use you do, it's all mixed use. It's context-based. What's the context? And then what we regulate is intensity. You know, what's the intensity of residential? How much can you tolerate? What's the intensity of hostelry, of lodging? Is it, do you want to rent a room? Do you want to have an 8-room bed and breakfast inn? Do you want to have an 80-room hotel? Do you want to have a 250-room full-service hotel? Well, you know what it is? All of them. We want all of them. The old zoning, the existing zoning is an on-off switch. Either you have lodging or you have nothing. And of course people don't want mixed use because it could be an inn and a hotel are the same thing. But no. As the colors get darker and lighter, there's a change in intensity from the high-rise to the 5-story downtown, to the 2-story downtown, to the mixed use, you know, a store at the corner, to the purely residential neighborhoods, which occur here at Church Street and Condi over here. And then you have districts. Districts are areas that we don't know what they are, and some of them are uncodable. This mess here can't be coded anymore. I'm sorry, you messed it up. The buildings are every which way. We have to wait till the next generation till it molts. It's horrible planning over here. The schools are where they are. This is the future courthouse. You know, these are civic in the light green. The warehouse district remains to be seen, whether it's primarily entertainment or primarily high tech. And by the way, it could be both. They're very attractive to each other. And then, of course, there are the purely residential neighborhoods. This is very finely graded. It's not like the old confetti of just residential, just commercial. And on this can be adjusted everything, including the level of noise. You see, so instead of having one noise ordinance, instead of having one parking ordinance, everything is finely nuanced. You know, it's finely graded. It's a declension of everything. When you see the code, you'll see that it's both very specific and very, very simple, very thin. Our entire code is much less thick, listen to this, than just the pages that the current code has listing the different uses. Can you believe that? The different uses that say, oh, you have coffee in small espresso cups, you have coffee in large espresso, well, excuse me, come get a variance. You know, it's absolutely manic, a manic profusion of different uses. Everything's mixed use except the houses. And so this really, by the way, it's not only this code is better and cleaner and so forth, it actually happens to fit your downtown. Now, it doesn't fit your suburbs. The old code remains in place for your suburbs. Your suburbs were designed under that code, and it fits this way. But your downtown is much better fitted for this code. This is the process by which you get a permit. I don't even want to think about it. Actually, no, this is the process by which you get a permit. Now, this was handed to me by a developer. It says, can you believe it? You know, can you believe this is what I have to go through? Well, actually, I can't. But I haven't engaged this. I think that this is better solved by people who know what it's like, and I think entire sections of this should be crossed out. Like, we don't really need this, we don't need that, okay? There's gonna be resistance, and I hope that you know, we don't have to bully people, but this is much too much. I mean, you can just see it right there. This is the structure of departments and things. My feeling is that it's too specialized, that too many departments are not talking to each other. I understand they have different standards, and the government is not coordinated, so the developer has to coordinate the government. You know, 3 agencies have different standards, and instead of the government saying, can we get together and establish a standard, the poor developer has to reconcile contradictory requirements. You know, it's not just Mobile, believe me, that's everywhere. And the federal government has completely contradictory requirements. Do you realize that the FEMA flood elevation requirements are completely antithetical to the handicap requirements, to the accessibility requirements? And the government just launches both and says, well, you haven't got a choice. You must do both. And you can just talk to them and say, but see, actually, let's just talk about the door threshold. Nothing big. One says no more than ½ an inch, and the other one says no less than 3/4. Look at these 2 lines. No more than ½ an inch and no less than 3/4. What do I do? That's the answer. You take the risks. One or the other may sue you. I've done that. I'm an architect. It's almost impossible to be an architect when government is so completely. All it takes is some local humans, you know, to say, let's just work it out slightly, because these crazy people in Washington, or crazy people, usually it's people in Washington, but crazy people in Montgomery are available as well. And you just have to, that's why there are humans in place. That's why it's not a computer. The humans can work it out as long as they meet over lunch at the Downtown Alliance. This is the flooding. This is an enormous issue. I don't know whether to get into it, but basically FEMA flood elevation requires a certain performance here, and the person in charge of administering it is actually taking the entire downtown and holding it to the same standard, okay? And this is probably responsible, because actually this might flood, but it's not legally required. And we came up with an idea that we thought were great. In the end, after you do all the FEMA applications and so forth, it always ends up being 1 foot higher than the level of the sidewalk. So why not skip that entire process, you know, with a surveyor and everything else, and just say in the code, every residential building has to be 1 foot higher than the midpoint of the infronting sidewalk, right? It's just one more little rule, instead of an entire separate process, 2 pages of you know, a surveyor that has to remind you how higher of sea level. It's the difference between one little item, literally for the architect, 1 sentence that says, principal floor 0, equivalent, 0, elevation equivalent to 1 foot above sidewalk. Done, absolutely done, instead of filling out forms for a different department in Washington. Okay. Believe it or not, there's resistance to that change. We tried it today. We pushed back. Bad news. I'm sorry. Like, at this point, the developers are absolutely right, and this isn't even legal to be administering it that way. At this point, I am absolutely, because you know, I know what it takes to fill out these FEMA elevations, and I don't care how easy it is to fill out those FEMA elevations. It is one completely unnecessary impediment, and that has to go. It's just And there's 2 or 3 that have to go like that. Okay, the downtown is profitable. Demand is strong but not